and he's going to house it.
It's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another Angle of Pursuit podcast, your NASCAR, DFS, and sports betting home. That is Brian Twining. I am Kyle Robert, back to break down all that was the Echo Park Grand Prix, as well as get you set for Richmond this week. Brian is shaking his head already. Brian, it was a gross week. I hated this race so much. The amount of restarts at the end, and then everyone just like crashing on turn one, and then just like people plowing into people, and then from a outright perspective, Tyler Reddick was the best car all weekend long. He proved it on Friday, proved it on Saturday, proved it on Sunday.
Yep.
Probably shouldn't have been so stubborn, but maybe that'll end up working out for us at the end of the season. But yeah, he looked really good. It was just a frustrating race because like every time it was like Daytona or Talladega with that restart, because you were just hoping that your guys weren't going to be the victims of whatever was the carnage that was going to go down in turn one. And fortunately or unfortunately for us, we were the victim of a lot of that carnage. So let's look at our betting card. We can
do we have to
cry about it together, talk about all the struggles that was our card and what to make of it. So I was feeling great with Daniel Suarez and Alex Bowman both in the top 5 towards the last couple laps. Did I really think they had a shot? No, but we saw last year and even in previous years that things can happen at the front, and all of a sudden Ross Chastain's popping through and winning the race. So that was certainly something. But neither one. Kyle Larson got taken out by Bubba. Kind of frustrating. Never really felt like he was the dynamic guy either. A lot of it was this stuff though, like McDowell over Taylor was fine. Suarez was great. And it was pretty wild actually to see Suarez and Cindric kind of having their issues. As teammates, they're even arguing a little bit after the fact, which is interesting to see with teammates. Obviously, Chastain can ruffle a few feathers, but Suarez is not afraid to stick his nose in there and do some stuff. And shouts to Ross, because there was 2 or 3 times where he kind of got taken out of the picture, sent to the back. Issues in Trackhouse having issues in the pits with both their cars, and each and every time he clawed his way back up to the front. Was he going to win? Probably not, but he definitely got in the top 5 conversation every single time. He was a fast car. He does drive really well and became one of the early favorites for a reason.
Yeah, the race was fine up until, the last 10% of it. Like it was refreshing to see the no stage breaks. It was interesting. I thought the best part about it was all the different strategies of pitting early, pitting later in a run. But it was clear, like Tyler Reddick was by far the best car on track, and it would have been a shame had he not won the race. Right. But yeah, just kind of looking at the betting cards here, there were a few of them that I thought for sure were going to hit. I mean, Denny wasn't the greatest car all day, but he definitely had a shot to top 10 late until the chaos started happening. Dinger was easily a top 5 car. And of course, he got wrapped up into one of those issues. The top 10 I did wind up hitting. Chris Buescher, I actually was the benefactor of the chaos at the end. So I can't sit here and say, oh yeah, that was a great pick, because he was probably more of a 15th, 12th through 15th type of car.
I'll give you a little more credit. He was much stronger, especially what we saw from qualifying, than his performance bared out kind of some of our early expectations going into the race. And yeah, it was definitely beneficial for him to get some of those other cars out of the way. But he definitely made some moves and was a good enough driver on Sunday where
Yeah,
he
like
put his name in the conversation.
I will say, like, he did a good job of kind of maintaining position. Like, he wasn't losing a bunch of spots,
Yeah.
but he also wasn't in any way, shape, or form about to just rocket up into the top 5. But
Yeah.
he definitely lucked out with that top 10 because of the absolute ridiculousness of the million restarts we got.
I'll give Kyle Busch some credit. He had a nice little strategy of pitting a little bit early, got him right in the
Yep.
conversation. When you have a vet like that, it's a lot easier to do. Truex was right there. I had a Bowman top 5 and a Truex top 10, and they were running 5-6, and I was really hoping they would just flip flop and Bowman would get the 5 and Truex, and of course Truex gets involved in one of the major accidents and
Yep.
gets taken out. Yeah, so my Dinger top 10, which we got great value on, didn't come to fruition, even though it should have. Bowman did. Truex should have. Christopher Bell was running great until he didn't. I don't know what to make of him because he didn't stop when a lot of other people did. So maybe I would have been a little bit more lucky in that scenario than maybe good. Because his car wasn't as strong as
Yeah.
I kind of had hoped, but he did put himself in there. And honestly, especially at a track where it's really the war of attrition and staying alive, he was doing all the things to put himself in position. He just couldn't do it. So yeah, I mean, it was definitely a frustrating race from a betting perspective, and wish we had gotten some better luck, but we did not. And our betting cards got obliterated, and our season-long bets have now we've got to climb back out of the hole we dug ourselves into. We went in on Daytona. We had a bad race. We got all the way out, and then now we're back in the hole again. So we have to find a way to keep progressing, keep going forward, and hopefully find some winners. We'll look at DraftKings where we found some of the guys. Obviously, Dinger getting crashing didn't help. Hamlin wasn't really ever in the conversation. Truex was solid, should have been a lot better. Rough day for Bubba. Almirola was kind of let's look at some of the other lineups. Obviously, Larson getting bumped out. Blaney, rough day for him. Ended up finishing barely almost top 20 just because of the carnage, but he was never really a strong option. Michael McDowell was okay. Ty Gibbs was okay. I bet that Ty Gibbs over Austin Cindric at 3-1 or 3.5-1. And I thought I had it, man. I thought I was all like, oh, here
There
we
were
go.
guaranteed. I mean, this fits perfect for the time of year we're in with March Madness coming to a close this upcoming weekend with the Final Four. But you talk about bad beats during the NCAA tournament. There were a ton of NASCAR bad beats this last weekend at COTA because of the carnage that occurred at the end.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about March Madness. I feel like you all have the right bet for 39 of 40 minutes, and all of a sudden the game flips on its head for no viable reason. Interesting over here. Suarez obviously was good until he wasn't. Chastain, like I said, kept climbing. He did some stuff that was really nice to see. And then I actually pulled up the optimal in this one, so it was kind of interesting because I feel like we talked about a lot of these guys. We just didn't quite put it together. I think Cindric was definitely somebody neither of us were really hyped on, but ended up being
Well, I
fine
mean, we
here.
kind of expected him to perform well, but it was just a matter of,
Yeah.
do we think he can maintain that position with how many guys had shown to be strong at
So
COTA last year?
your guy Busher, top 10. Todd Gilliland, top 10. Those were two
Gilliland.
guys that you had to have. Tyler Reddick and then Ross Chastain is kind of like the group. So interesting to see kind of how DraftKings shook out. We'll look to improve this week and see if we can't be better. As always, we will be back on Saturday to get you set for Sunday's race. Richmond, I'm really excited about. I think it's going to be a fun race. Obviously, a very, very big departure from what we saw last week at COTA. We'll see how the drivers stack up, but let's look at the odds. Unfortunately, Odds Checker and Action Network aren't really up to date. So I pulled up Caesars. I pulled up FanDuel and then DraftKings. So we can just kind of run through them, look for the best numbers, and just get some initial thoughts. And then obviously we'll be back, update our betting card and all that stuff as well when we record on Saturday. So Kevin Harvick, William Byron, co-favorites. Byron is a little bit more of you can kind of see. Let me see, go to the winner. Byron is more of a favorite, so and it all look. Shopping is key. 4.5, 6, and then 5.5. So shop it. If you only have DraftKings and Caesars, obviously Caesars is the number. If you can get to FanDuel, that seems to be the best. Let's run through FanDuel just because, and then we'll hop back to Caesars for some of the matchups and stuff because it seems to give us a little bit better of a number. But as always, shop it. Find your best value because betting on NASCAR is hard. You could have the right guy, and he blows a tire or somebody runs into him and all that stuff. So give yourself your payout. So a lot tighter board at the top. Obviously, Byron is the favorite. Kyle Larson, Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell, Kyle Busch, Martin Truex kind of round out the inside 10-1. Where are you going initially? Anyone at the top of the board garnering your attention?
Honestly, I'm in a position for this week coming up. There is no way that I'm going to jump on any of these guys sitting at 7 or 8-1. Like, that is an absolutely ridiculous lay by the sports books, having 6-7 guys with those odds where, last year that was the favorite, or you had one guy that was plus 550 and then the next best odds was, 9-1 or 8.5-1. And that was even post qualifying. I mean, with these particular odds, you better hope that guy comes out there and runs an extremely fast qualifying lap and is starting the race near the front, because otherwise you're going to be losing, a unit or two at least on these dudes. So nobody inside the top 8 guys for me is piquing any interest at all right now.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. I am curious to see with the new car. It seems like the same kind of guys are typically competing, and the guys that we expect to do well. So it might be a range that we'll have to fix our brain and kind of dive into. The one guy for me in this range that I'm excited about at his price is Christopher Bell. Had some success last year, had 2 wins on short courses, had bunch of top 5, top 10 type performances. It was really, really solid. I just somebody in for him to be priced like he's not the favorite. Let's see, where's his best number? Yeah, it looks like 750 across the board. So of the guys that are priced up and aggressively, he is the favorite option for me. Had some success, ran some good races. Obviously, did not eventually get it done, but had a good qualifying effort, started near the front, ran well all day, and has been improving kind of as the season's gone along. So I'm a little more optimistic on him kind of going forward. It might be worth diving into kind of futures odds and see if we get a better number there. But
I'm just kind of looking at Christopher Bell, for instance, 7.5-1.
Right.
I mean, William Byron could garner that particular number or a little bit shorter just with how good he's been so far this year. But Christopher Bell, what has he done on Sundays in terms of finishing that is telling us that he's, right there with him, the favorite to win a race? I want to see what he throws out there on practice and qualifying first before I dive in with somebody on him, especially at that price. If he was 10 or 11, maybe you get in on it knowing that he has a history of qualifying really well and that it's going to drop. But I mean, how much further down is that going to go to where you're not going to get in on it as well after seeing him with a strong car?
So I'm just to your point about the odds from last year. I'm looking at the August race. Larson was the favorite at 6-1. Chase Elliott was 7.5-1. Kyle Busch was 8.5-1. As was Hamlin and Truex. Then it was 10-1 with Blaney, Byron, Chastain,
Was that
Logano.
pre or post?
It's an article on CBS, so my guess is it's pre, but I can look down to see if there's yeah. Well, what is it? What is this? Yeah, maybe that was for the spring race, and this is for the fall race because Truex was 6, Hamlin was 6. This is on DraftKings. Kyle Busch was 7, Christopher Bell was 8, Chase Elliott was 9, Larson was 10. So, handful of guys kind of squished at the top. It seems like they're definitely a little bit shorter this year. But similar names.
Yeah,
It also, I think part of it is Chase Elliott's not here, right? So that also is once
true.
again that his effect is being felt. So if we look beyond kind of those single digit guys, we have Joey Logano at 12. We have Ross Chastain at 20. We have Alex Bowman at 20. We have Brad Keselowski at 20. If you tell me Brad Keselowski is the name you like, I will start. I probably fall out of my chair, to be honest.
How do you skip directly over the guy that's eventually going to win a race? It's Ryan Blaney 20-1. Like dude has qualified top 10 in, let me see here, 4 consecutive Richmond races, and they did pretty well over at Phoenix. I mean, he finished runner-up at Phoenix this year. He's qualified inside the top 10 in 4 straight Phoenix races, actually 6 straight Phoenix races. So, I mean, he's probably going to unload pretty quick. That 20-1 number is going to be chopped down to 15 or 12 after practice and qualifying are my expectations. I mean, dude's gotta get it together at some point. And at 20-1, like you all know my love for the number 12, so I'm going in this week, and that's added to the card as my first outright.
Yeah, I don't hate it. Qualified on the pole, finished 7th in the spring race, led 128 laps.
I believe it was the first 128 laps, though.
The the fall race was not as good.
Yeah.
Started 13th, finished 22nd. Yeah, it seems like he does well his first time, like at Bristol. He started 10th, finished 7th. The second race started 5th, finished 35th. That's probably an accident there. There's like 3 Bristol races. Oh, that's right. They did
Bristol
that.
Dirt.
Yeah, silly stuff. Oh wait, no, I'm looking at different years. Never mind. Yeah, so Bristol started 6th, finished 30th and 22. Richmond started 10th, finished 10th. So, you're probably onto something, especially at that number when there's so many drivers that are kind of pushed up a little farther than probably they should be. So it really is a design of, okay, do you want to take one or 2 of these guys and kind of just be locked in on them, or do you want to take a little bit longer of a shot on guys that we think can win? Because I think Bowman can win, I think Blaney can win, I think Chastain can win. They're all at 20-1. That is interesting. Brad K, I don't hate. I know you don't love him, but ran really well at the Richmond race in April.
And he's been great this year.
Yeah.
I mean, COTA aside, road courses are not necessarily something you think of when you talk about Brad Keselowski, but in terms of RFK, like they've been fantastic this year, so I don't mind 20. It is interesting though. Would you rather bet Keselowski at 20 or Reddick at 25 after watching his ascension the last couple of weeks?
Tyler, I really like. I think he's done a lot of good things. I'm curious to see how he does at a track like this, because he has his places where he does really, really well. I just don't think short track is kind of his jam. And curious to see if that is something. And I think the fact that he's priced where he is kind of interesting, given how he just came off of a win. He's looked much better. It's almost like the books are baiting us into betting something that maybe we should give it a second thought. But maybe I'm overthinking it and applying too much nonsensical stuff to it. Because yeah, I don't know. What about you? Are you interested more in Tyler Reddick, or would you consider maybe Chris Buescher and Brad K and just double
Well,
RFK it up?
let me just say this about Reddick. Like he doesn't have the greatest history here at Richmond. You're talking not a single top 10 at this track. But with that said, like when you look back at the past history or just the last couple of years at Richmond, JGR in general, I'm just going to use them as the example for Toyota. They've been absolutely fantastic here, finishing all 4 cars inside the top 10. I believe it's 4 straight times. So all 4 races the last 2 years. And then when you think about the fact that Reddick, who he's really found something in that car since Phoenix, where he finished 3rd, there's something to be said at the fact that Denny Hamlin is like the Richmond guy. Like everybody talks about Richmond Raceway and it's Denny Hamlin. So Tyler Reddick is driving the same manufacturer for Denny Hamlin. And you got to think that he's getting advice from Denny in terms of how to race at this track. So for me, the 25-1 number is something I'd be jumping on early because he's probably going to qualify, even if it's 10th or decide the top 15, that's probably going to drop to 18, maybe 16-1.
Yeah. I mean, he's had 3 straight top 5s. Obviously, 1 at COTA, 5th at Atlanta, 3rd at Phoenix. After his struggles at Daytona, California, Vegas, he was okay. So yeah, no, you might be onto something, and he might be kind of getting more comfortable in his new car. Everything's might be starting to roll. And yeah, if you jump in on him now at 25, that number may be 15, 13 come race day. So that, when we're doing this, we're looking for guys that we think could move against us. So jumping in on it now is the time. Whereas maybe some of these guys, even if they qualify well, how much more are they going to move? So
yeah,
it's like Byron's going to go to like 3-1, or Harvick's going to go to 5-1.
He would have to be like a second or 2 faster. He would have to put together practice and qualifying very similarly to what Reddick did at COTA.
Yeah. The more I'm looking at the data, though, the more Harvick is somebody who's also a little bit interesting to me inside that 10-1. Maybe, hope he doesn't qualify quite as well, and maybe I can get 8 or 9. I don't know. Maybe that's
Harvick was the guy that he should have won Phoenix, if I'm not mistaken, before there was a wreck, and then Larson took the lead, and then there was another caution to where William Byron wound up winning the race.
Yeah. That sounds right.
Yeah, something of that nature. So, I mean, Harvick has definitely shown to be well. I mean, he's great at these types of tracks in general.
Beyond Reddick, I don't know if I love really anyone to actually win the race. I think that's the cutoff point for me. Any of these other guys, I'm all set.
Yeah, and I mean, we're only a few races in here, but you're definitely starting to see kind of what we talked about at the beginning of the season. Like the big dogs are going to be the ones that are winning the races this year. And yes, Ricky Stenhouse won Daytona, but anybody can win that friggin' race.
Yeah, Daytona, Talladega, even Atlanta to a lesser extent are going to be like the wild card tracks, and then obviously we'll have guys like Dinger and Suarez who have a better shot at road courses. But any of these like short track, mile and a half, it's all going to be the names. It's the Byrons, it's the Larsons, it's the Ryan Blaney's, maybe. All those names. Let's go to let's go see what we can find. Oh, Caesars has top 10s. Um,
1 to
they're
4.
gonna
That's
they're gonna be
disgusting.
priced aggressively because they expect the best guys to perform well. So it would be nice. Was it BetMGM that had the not top 5, not top 10s?
Yeah, but that was only in Vegas. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, so if you're in Vegas, that might not be the worst thing. Like if you bet like Kevin Harvick to not top 5, or I don't know. It is interesting to see Christopher Bell priced here too. Minus 220.
well, again, that goes to JGR's success here the last 2
Yeah.
years. I mean, they've been fantastic.
Tyler Reddick at minus 110 to top 10. Like, how do we feel about that? It's hard when we go from race to race, and like some of the expectations and in terms of outrights, and then obviously that affects everything else. Like I can't bet somebody at plus 140 or 150, and then so the next week I have to bet him at minus 110 to do the same thing. I don't know.
So Reddick's best career finish at Richmond is an 11th. He finished 12th here during the spring, and then in the fall he finished 31st. I mean, this is not a place where he's traditionally done well. That being
Yeah.
said, like I talked about with him driving the Toyota from JGR's garage has been absolutely amazing here,
Yeah.
and he's driving for the guy who has been the most dominant Toyota driver at Richmond.
Yeah, no, I think that's completely fair. I just
So I
want
mean, almost
want
getting
to.
even money.
Yeah, but like I feel like we're not getting the price we should get based upon their performance.
Oh yeah, no, I think the market is definitely responding to what he's done the last 3 races of this
Yeah.
year, as opposed to his
And probably
performance
to your
at the
point
track.
about the car and the teammates and the expectations there as well. So
Yeah.
no, that's probably fair. Like, would you rather bet Reddick at minus 110 to top 10, or Ross Chastain at what to minus 110 to top 10?
I think just in general as a whole, from what we've seen, I would think that Trackhouse has been, I mean, slightly better throughout the season as a whole, if you take every single race into account. But
Yeah.
like, who's going to avoid any issues? I would definitely bank on Tyler Reddick being a little more safe than Ross Chastain.
No, that's completely fair. I am gonna add Ross Chastain top 10. Brad Keselowski top 10 at even money is kind of interesting. We'll have to see. Let's go over to see if they have top 10 odds. Reddick Reddick's minus 140 over here, so that minus 110 is looking a little bit better. Ross Chastain's minus 125. Brad K is plus 105, and over here, I mean, that's DraftKings. They won't have it for months. He's plus 100, so I can get Brad K to top 10 at FanDuel
At plus
at plus
105.
105, which I'm going to take. And then we can take Chastain at Caesars at minus 110. Probably should take Tyler Reddick, given how much we're talking him up, and the fact that we could get him at minus 110. Or is that just like me seeing better numbers and going, well, take the value where I can get it?
Well, what's really interesting about the Tyler Reddick talk from me is that you'll see when we look at the matchups, like I'm betting against him in one particular matchup. Uh, but obviously that's not indicative of me saying that I don't think both are going to top 10. I just think that the other guy is a little bit stronger.
Yeah. I'm having issues typing. Okay. Any of these other like top 10-ish numbers jumping out to you as potential values?
I feel like they're just too short before we know
Yeah.
how these guys are going to run here, because this is the first real short track that
Yeah.
we're seeing this year with the new downforce package. I mean, we've talked about this at nauseum already this season, but Phoenix is a 1 mile short flat track. I mean, this is a real short track, 3/4 mile. So, driving is going to be a little bit different here. So I really want to see what they put together on the track.
In terms of qualifying, I know they're a lot more of a crapshoot, but Ryan Blaney is 12-1 to qualify on the pole.
He has the 4th best average start here the last 2 years.
Tyler Reddick, if we think his car is better and he figured some stuff out, 17-1 is kind of interesting.
The one thing I will say, though, is that the 3 best average starts at Richmond the last 2 years, Denny Hamlin, 2.3, Christopher Bell, 3.8, and Party Marty Jr., 4.3. JGR.
So you're saying JGR then?
I mean, I would not fault anybody who just lays a little bit on all 3, Bell, Hamlin, and Truex.
Yeah, because even at 7.5 to 1 and 8, yeah. Bell at 7-1 is interesting. Bell and I think Bell and Blaney are the ones that are the most interesting to me. You know who started in the top 10 here back in August? You'll never believe it.
Bubba Wallace.
Cole Custer.
Oh, disgusting.
Real disgusting. All right.
Gross.
Group bets. Anything interesting here? I don't know.
Yeah, I ain't messing with exactas anymore.
You got burned. You're good.
Yeah, I'm through with those.
Let's see. Oh, Ryan Blaney.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah. 2 guys that we're kind of into this week. 14-1.
Yeah, but what are their numbers individually for their manufacturer? We got to see. That's the thing we got to see here. 14-1.
I don't see it though. That's got to be. Thing.
Hold on. Yeah, it's up.
It's up.
Yeah, so Blaney's plus 375 for top forward.
Are you in other?
I'm in future bets.
Oh.
I honestly don't even know where you're at right now. So
I am here.
There you go. Yeah, so future bets all the way to the top.
Oh. Bell is 2 plus 210 to be top Toyota. Denny is 220, Truex 240. Tyler Reddick top Toyota at 450 is interesting.
I mean, that's a tough ask though when you're talking about he would have to finish ahead of all the JGR guys.
Yeah, that's fair.
And
you
like
can
I
ask them
said,
to finish ahead of one maybe, but all of them not so much.
Yeah, that's going to be a difficult.
Blaney is plus 375. Chevys. Ross at plus 650 to top Chevy.
I don't know, man. Ross is scary, dude. He's just so wild on the track.
He's one of a kind for sure. Here's the boost. So you can get Tyler Reddick as top Toyota at 5-1 and Denny Hamlin to win at 9-1. With the odds boost at Caesars.
That's both a no.
See, and the odds boost all supposedly in theory, they're supposed to help you make better bets so that you win your bet, you come back and then you spend a lot more. So I always go, well, they want you to lose in the long haul, but maybe this is they want you to win short term to lose more long term. That's kind of how I view it. So
now, if they had Denny Hamlin at 12-1, you bet your ass I'd be jumping on that.
So is that your number 12? If it was 10-1, would you take it?
I mean, maybe it. The one thing about Denny in particular this year is like he's been so wishy-washy in Toyota in general again.
Yeah.
Hasn't shown the consistency needed for me to want to just jump on any number with him here, regardless of how good he's actually been.
Tyler Reddick at 12-1 or Christopher Bell at 14-1 to win the championship.
Oh, I would much rather take Christopher Bell.
Let's see. So I bet it at 12-1, Christopher Bell, and I bet Reddick at 16. So,
Oh, yeah.
How are we feeling about having those Chase Briscoe futures?
Oh well, let's just be happy that they weren't for a ton of units.
Yeah.
Hey, he could turn it on. We've seen it, but yeah, no. SHR has been Kevin Harvick and a bunch of guys.
Yeah. SHR, man, they have been frustrating. All right. Anything else we should look at?
Yeah, let's check out I want to check out the matchups on FanDuel or DK.
FanDuel. All right, let's go to FanDuel. Here we go. Harvick versus Larson. Larson being a short dog here is kind of interesting.
Yeah, but we're talking about Harvick, who's been incredible.
Truex versus Kyle Busch. Truex, we talked about him. We talked about the JGR stuff. -108. Kind of interesting.
Definitely interesting there.
Logano versus Bowman. Christopher Bell.
This is one that I feel is so mispriced that like I'm going to add it simply based off of the fact that Denny Hamlin has been so good here throughout his career. You know where he's going to run throughout the day. And Christopher Bell, yeah, for even us talking him up as possibly the best JGR driver at the moment, like Hamlin's career success at this track is almost akin to what we expect out of Harvick at Phoenix to just top 10 every single freaking time.
Yeah, and I expect I think Hamlin. I'm adding it too, by the way. But Hamlin is safe, so like I'd much rather, if I'm betting Christopher Bell, I'd much rather bet him top Toyota, to win the race, top 3, where I feel like his ceiling may be a little bit more higher, or the odds of hitting his ceiling might be a little more higher, but his floor is so much lower than Denny's. Like I feel like Denny's a lot safer.
Well, just for example, Denny Hamlin has finished 4th or better in the last 4 Richmond races.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody else in the circuit has done that. He won the spring race last year. He was right there during the fall battling with Kevin Harvick again until I think he made contact with somebody late and he finished a disappointing 4th. Like, this guy is incredible here.
Yeah.
Oh,
all right.
And there you go.
Go ahead.
So that's the matchup that I'm going to bet. Ryan Blaney plus money over Tyler Reddick. I know I've been talking up Reddick in terms of I think he's going to perform better than what history has told us. But Blaney, like Hamlin, has been good here. He's been better than Reddick. All 4 of the last 4 races finished ahead of him here. He finished ahead of him at Phoenix this last year. Blaney's probably going to qualify better than him. So this number is probably going to get down to -110, -108, especially on FanDuel because they like the weird numbers. So getting plus money on a guy who has historically performed better than his opponent at this track is something to jump on early.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the foresight and the thought process behind it. I will not be joining you on it, but think it makes a lot of sense. Let's hop over here and see if there's any better numbers so we can get Hamlin over Bell at +120. Truex at -105 versus Kyle Busch. Was it the same number or is it?
I think it's -108.
108. So yeah, so a little bit better over here. Once again, Blaney over Reddick is the same. Bowman -105. Chastain +115 versus Tyler Reddick. I am going to take that. Thank you very much. Maybe. It's just one of those things that like I think Reddick, we expect him to perform well, and Ross, I'm a little more confident in his range of outcomes. I totally don't fault anybody who can understand that he has the ability to do really, really well, but also to do really, really, really horribly. Brian. I think we haven't had one of these in a while, but if you want to do a little show bet, I'm happy to oblige.
I'm not laying 135 there.
I'll just take that then. Shouts to DraftKings. I was like, my card's not going to be very busy this week, and well, here we are. So
yeah. I was just gonna say, although I do think that Kevin Harvick is kind of like one of the maestros at these types of tracks. If you go up the Christopher Bell plus money versus him is a decent like dart throw. Just kind of seeing what JGR and Bell has done here the last couple of years. Bell for what it's worth has finished 6th or better in all 4 of the last races at Richmond. I've been talking Toyota up, which clearly they're going to absolutely suck ass this week. But there's definitely something to be said that the race is titled the Toyota Owners 400, and Toyota's performed well here. So I don't know if there's getting like early data or early information on how the track is supposed to race. But
yeah,
I mean, plus money on a guy who is clearly ascending in the sport, even against somebody as good as Harvick, I think is a good value.
I think of it though, similar to the Hamlin bet we made, where Bell's range of outcomes is higher and lower, where Harvick I expect to be steady.
Oh yeah, no, for
and
sure.
I feel
but
much better in terms of a head-to-head at backing Harvick over Bell.
Yeah, like I personally won't add it just because it's hard for me to pick Hamlin over Bell and then go Bell over Harvick, and then I would have to hope that Hamlin probably wins the race because
Yeah,
I think
you want the Toyotas to do well at that point, and
Yeah.
so if they could easily be 3 of the top 5 cars, and then maybe Byron and I don't know, Larson or Byron and Blaney get in there, and then that's your top 5.
Yeah. All right. I think I'm going to play that one. Harvick over Kyle Larson. Harvick minus 115 over Larson. Yes, it's a little bit more juice than I normally like to lay on matchups, but like we were just talking about it. The success of Harvick and kind of knowing where he's going to run is something I feel confident in banking on versus a guy who, yeah, Kyle Larson, we know what his ceiling is, but he's also had moments where he boneheaded moves or the car malfunctions. We've heard it the last year or so. When he doesn't have his crew chief, he's not the same driver, and he still doesn't have his crew chief. So I'm gonna add this to the card.
I really want to take Larson there. I really do. Because he's had good runs. Stage 3 hasn't been kind to him. He finished top 5 after starting 21st. He was 3rd after stage 1 and 2nd after stage 2 in the August race, and then obviously finished 14th. I don't know. That's tough. It's probably going to be an avoid for me. It is interesting though, because we are recording this Wednesday afternoon. The juice on some of these matchups, clearly people have gotten to the books, got their money down, and now the books are waiting for people to kind of balance out that exposure on the other side. So Harvick versus Byron's kind of good if you want to stay with that thought process. You can get Blaney at plus money over Kyle Busch.
I'm gonna add that, by the way.
Which one, Blaney?
Blaney. I'm back on the Blaney train this week, everyone. So you might want to avoid.
Look
Yeah.
out. That's
just too enticing with the plus money, though. I don't.
Wow. I'd just rather bet him to win the race because I think if he does all that, then he wins. But it is good supplemental bets to your outright option for sure. I'm gonna add Christopher Bell to win. I know it's aggressive at plus 750, but I think he wins the race.
I mean, outside of him absolutely tanking qualifying, you're probably going to be around the same number, if not a little bit shorter.
Yep. My expectation is he qualifies well, and now we're looking at 6-1. So
yeah,
I'll take
that makes sense.
And like we talked about the similar thing with Larson last week, it didn't end up coming to fruition. Number was basically the same, but yeah. Yeah, Blaney is 16 at DraftKings. Reddick's at 18.
Yeah, and I wanted to mention that real quick too. Like that is something else also when I'm looking at matchups, I'm also trying to look at what their outrights are sitting at most of the time. And when you see like Blaney is shorter at pretty much every single book on an outright and in the top 10 market in every market that he's offered, he has shorter odds than Tyler Reddick. Like to me, that's an indication that the book actually thinks that he should be finishing ahead of Reddick. So to get plus money on that matchup is almost like a mispriced
I think the
book.
top 3, top 5, top 10 market is much more indicative when you're looking at head-to-heads, because obviously the some people have a high rate variance and they could easily win the race, but they could finish 32nd. But if the book is pricing them to finish, kind of in a certain area, and you think that is more likely than the guy they're facing, then obviously that's a good way to get exposure to that without paying as steep of a price. It's also interesting because these are all independent markets, right? So if you really like, Tyler Reddick or Ryan Blaney or Christopher Bell or whatever to finish somewhere, and you have to lay minus 220 for them, as a top 10, but then in the head-to-head market you're getting minus 120 or minus 110, then that's a much better spot, and you just hope they finish at one spot, even if it's 12th, but that you might have to be 6th. So there's it's not quite as definitive, but then I'd much rather lay a better price and hope my guy, like I'm here for making good bets, and if my best bet comes in the form of a matchup instead of a head-to-head, or a matchup instead of a finishing position, then I'm going to do it that way.
Yeah.
All right, Brian, we rambled on long enough. Let's recap our card. Let's give the people a best bet, and let's get the hell out of here. So my one outright as we sit is Christopher Bell at 7.5 to 1. Ross Chastain to top 10, Brad K to top 10, and Tyler Reddick to top 10. All make the card, and then Hamlin over Bell, Chastain over Reddick, and Chastain over Blaney, mostly because of the juice associated. Brian, go ahead and break down your card as we sit here.
So I only have one outright right now, based simply off of value, and that's Ryan Blaney at 21 over at FanDuel, and a ton of matchups. Ryan Blaney over Tyler Reddick at plus 100 over at DK, Hamlin over Bell at plus 120 at FanDuel, and then all three of these at DK, Truex Jr. over Kyle Busch, Harvick over Larson, and Ryan Blaney over Kyle Busch.
Yeah, I like all of those. What is your best bet as we sit here on Wednesday?
Well, it was actually the first one that I found that I liked, and it's going to be Ryan Blaney over Tyler Reddick at plus 100. I'm going to go 3 units on this. I know it's a little risky, but just from what I've seen in the past, and I feel like the market is a little bit overcorrected to what Reddick has been doing on track this season. I think he's going to be strong. I think the top 10 is highly likely, but I think Blaney is just going to be a little bit better this weekend.
I like the call. A head-to-head does sound interesting. You know what? I'll join you on the yeah. I'm gonna fade Tyler Reddick as well. I'm gonna take Ross Chastain to beat Tyler Reddick. I was gonna go with like the top 10 at minus 110. It's probably safer, but I will take Chastain against Tyler Reddick plus 115 over at DK. I'm happy to find that. and I will also put 3 units on it. So let us know your favorite option as we head into the week. And, always make sure you hit subscribe. We have been slowly but surely adding a few more subscribers to the feed. We appreciate everybody hopping on. Make sure you smash the thumbs up if you have not done so. We really appreciate everybody who has joined for this season. That is Brian Twining. I'm Kyle Robert. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll talk to you next time.